Okay, we are here to assess this tree to see what we're going to do with it. The first thing we're looking at is to see whether the tree is blocking access. And as we can see with this tree, there's enough room for a tractor still to pass by, so we wouldn't have to trim this tree for access alone. The second thing we're looking at is actually the fruit. And we'll come over to the fruit here, and we're going to actually feel the fruit and just see whether it's still hard or whether it's starting to go soft. If the fruit's starting to go soft, this tree is just slightly softer than normal. That means that the root to canopy ratio is actually imbalanced. So what we need to do is prune this tree quite severely to restore that ratio. If the fruit is hard, there's no necessity to prune the tree back immediately. And in fact, we're probably 2 months away from harvest, so this fruit is probably better left until harvest if it's firm, if it's still hard. The third thing we're looking at after access and fruit hardness or softness is just looking at the general state of the leaves. And we can see all these branches here, the leaves are still wilting. Now this is actually 10 days or so after the storm event, and this is actually quite a bad sign. It indicates that the transpiration flow is inadequate to maintain this tree because the roots, too many roots are actually damaged. So again, this is an indicator we're going to have to cut this tree back quite severely in order to save it. The next thing to assess is the extent of root damage. And we can see with this tree here, we've actually got quite a significant amount of the roots that have actually been torn out. And what we can actually do is just basically try to rock the tree. This tree is still pretty firm, which is a good sign. There's enough stability here to perhaps keep this tree to cut back and to regrow. So when we're looking at cutting it back, what we aim to do is leave a few of these lower limbs on the ground as props to stop the tree rocking around, and keep maybe 2 or 3 vertical branches for future canopy. We'd actually make a cut probably about here somewhere, taking all that distal leaf and stuff off, because that's going to be no use to us at all. It won't grow any fruit worth any value. And if we come over further inside the tree, we'll do the same with this one over here, and that leaves 2 good props which will support the tree until the new roots start to establish. And then we'll take these major limbs off. We'd probably take this off about here, this one off about here, which in effect is going to leave us with 2 vertical limbs, this one and this one. And that's probably only a matter of, if we look at it, there's 1, 2 out of a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 2 over 7 times 101 over 1% of the previous canopy. And then what we'll do is leave that for a couple of months and see how it actually responds. And if these leaves are still wilted after a couple of months, this tree's terminal, it needs removing. And probably the best thing to do would be to remove it and plant a Doosa or Bounty or some clonal rootstock. Okay, we're now going to assess this tree that's fallen over. So the fruit is actually quite firm, but this tree is actually blocking the access road, which is pretty much along here for tractor access for spraying. So a certain proportion of this tree is going to have to be removed to enable tractor access, so we can spray and do things like picking and stuff like that. So if we come over to the roots, there's still quite a large amount of the roots, proportion of the roots still in the ground. So with this tree we wouldn't have to get too severe other than to create access. So in this situation I would leave 1 or 2 crop roots, crop branches, sorry, these ones along the ground, and I'd be removing some of these other ones which are actually blocking access into the canopy. And I'll probably start with the lower branches. So maybe this one will probably take off here. It creates a little bit of a prop. This will go down to the ground. This one here could probably come off further back, and maybe those 2 and a couple of those lower ones, which would leave probably about 20% of the canopy to re-establish for a future tree. Okay, this tree has blown over, it's tipped over about 45 degree angle. So if we actually have a closer look in here, we can see what's happening. This tree is actually being supported by 2 prop branches at the moment, and this tree, we've actually assessed the fruit. The fruit is still firm, the leaf health is good, there's no signs of wilting. So we're going to look at see what we're going to cut back, and we sort of agreed the best thing to do with this tree is nothing at the moment, because if we come around this side of the tree and look at the access, tractor access up this road here, we can still pretty much get a tractor up and down here, so we don't have to prune back to get access. So the best thing to do with this tree, we believe, is to wait until the fruit is mature and pick the fruit and then come in and do a bit of structural pruning And if we come back over to this side of the tree, okay, so we sort of agreed this tree we want to leave a couple of prop branches which will prevent the tree blowing right flat. So if we cut this branch here after the fruit have been removed, this branch over the other side, probably about a metre, 750 to a metre from the trunk, that would be an adequate prop. Those two branches would give the tree enough stability to prevent it blowing over. And then what we'd have a look at is probably removing any low branches, possibly this one here, on this side of the tree, trying to restore a bit of balance to the tree. Otherwise, what's likely to happen is we're going to increase the weight on the downhill side of the tree, increasing that leverage arm. This is an example of a tree that blew over in the 2007 storm, so it's 7 years almost to the day since this tree blew over. And what Dave did in this case, if we can come into the tree, we can see how he actually pruned a few branches off. So we can see a few branches were pruned, one there, and there's one on the other side of the tree. Now this tree's responded very well by producing new wood. This is actually new wood since 2007, this branch here, and this branch there. And both of these two branches are actually carrying quite a bit of fruit. So this tree has actually re-established its apical dominance by growing new wood vertically from old horizontal wood. So just an example of a tree which actually had probably half the roots ripped out, which is still quite a productive tree.